Hello, my name is Alice Thorpe and today I'm going to show you how to design a coffee logo in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to show you the whole process from start to finish. We're going to have a look at a brief which you can follow along with at home. I'm going to show you how I gather inspiration and ideas, how I draft those ideas out. I'm going to download different elements from Envato elements to use within my project, and then you're going to see how I tweak things and go back and forth right up until we present the logos and the design project to our client. So if you want to learn how to create a coffee logo in Adobe Illustrator, keep on watching, and of course don't forget to check out Envato elements because I'm using all of their assets in this video and I love them. Let's get going. First up, we need to look at the brief. So when designing a new logo, you need to work out whether it's a brief from a client or if it's self-initiated. In this case, it's a client brief, and the brief is as follows. We are Northern Quarter Coffee Company, or NQC for short. We are an independent coffee shop and roastery based in the Northern Quarter, Manchester. We are committed to delivering high-quality specialty coffee sourced directly from sustainable growers across the globe. Our shop and roastery offers customers an urban workspace and welcome retreat to enjoy our carefully curated goods. We also host the creative works of local artists, alongside offering space for workshops and various events throughout the year. So that's our brief, and I don't know about you, but this coffee shop sounds really vibey, really fun. It hosts local artists, so I can picture a little shop, a little cute stall in there, some space for workshops, and just totally vibey. So what I am taking from that brief is I want something quite modern looking. I don't want anything too generic. I don't want the coffee beans in it. I don't want the mug in it. I want to make something a little bit different because I feel like this coffee shop likes to be different. It's sustainable and it likes to have its shop as like a creative space for a lot of people rather than just the coffee shop, you know? So what I want to do first is head over to my favorite place, which is Pinterest, and I'm going to look into some existing coffee logos and sort of gather a little bit of information. So I've searched coffee logo in Pinterest, and as expected, there are a lot of generic coffee style logos that have appeared. But what I'm going to do is I am going to save just anything that catches my eye on a new board. I find this a great way of sort of piecing together what it is that you're thinking that you want this logo to look like. So even if at the beginning you haven't really got an idea of what you want, you can just pin a bunch of things that catches your attention and then look at it overall and you'll sort of be able to piece together an idea. That's the theory. So I'm just going to scroll down here and we're going to pin some of these images and then we'll get back with the board and we'll have a look at the sort of vibes we're going for. I'm also going to look for modern logos so it doesn't just show me coffee beans, coffee cups and steam, because I want to try and stay away from that for this logo. And I'm actually also going to search for monogram logo because as I've been scrolling through, I've realised I can make use of the NQC in Northern Quarter Coffee. So it would be quite fun to experiment with some different letters to make sort of like a monogram style. So maybe something like this. You see where they've used the H and the M to create a nice sort of icon. Thinking along those lines. So I'm just going to go along and again save a couple of those, and then we'll see what the overall theme is. Looking at the images that I've saved, you can kind of see where I'm going with it. So like I said, if you don't have a solid idea, my favorite thing to do is scroll through Pinterest or similar websites, have a look at some designs, search those keywords. So I searched coffee shop, I searched modern, and I searched monogram. So I used 3 keywords, and these were the logos that I found that I like the look of. And I don't know about you, but I can definitely see a theme going on here. Very simple, basic lines, straight cut, modern, nothing too fussy. Definitely feeling the monogram, so using the letters. I'm 80% sure I want to use it in a circle, but I really do like this one where it isn't in a circle, but it's using sort of negative white space to create the logo. So I think we can experiment with this and sort of work out where we're going. So what I like to do next is get off the computer, grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I'm going to sketch some ideas out. When sketching your ideas, try not to restrict yourself. So make sure you're just drawing whatever comes to mind. Don't worry about it being messy. As you can see, my doodles are literally that. They're just doodles. I'm not an artist in any way. I'm a graphic designer, and I find sketching on paper really, really helpful in the whole process. I like taking a second away from my screen, and it really helps me visualize and just get out the ideas. I've just sort of let my mind go loose. I've scribbled a whole bunch of ideas, and you can kind of see that I'm once again following a little bit of a theme. So what I'm going to do is take a photo of these sketches, and I'm going to import them into my laptop so that I can view them when I'm in Adobe Illustrator. We've now got our sketches in Illustrator. As you can see, they aren't anything special. Literally just doodles. That's completely fine. We're going to transform them together. Before we start transforming, however, I do want to collect some different assets. So this is where Envato Elements comes in. So I am on their website, and straight up I'm going to try and find some fonts. So they have this menu bar here, and we can pick between serif, sans serif, script, decorative, or all fonts. So we're going to go on all, and I don't want script or decorative, so I'm going to just filter on the left hand side to serif or sans serif, and I'm going to just have a look and see if there's any that sort of catch my eye. And what I'm going to do is save them into a collection. Now, you can create your own collections. When you have an account on Envato, I have a lot of them, but everything that I save into this one for the coffee company, I will link for you guys so you can also check it out. So I'm going to save this. I am going to create a collection. So I'm just going to call it NQC for Northern Quarter Coffee. Press create, and then that's now saved. So I don't necessarily want to download all of them straight away. I'm going to do the similar thing to what I did in Pinterest. I'm going to save them to my collection, and then I'll always have them to look back on, or if I change my mind and want a different one, anything like that, I can go back to it whenever. So I'm going to just save a bunch of different ones to my collections, and then we will reevaluate and figure out which ones I'm going to use. You can also search the fonts So any specifics, whether you want cartoon or modern, etc., you can search it in the search bar, or there are a bunch of different options that you can refine by. I'm actually just going to search modern and see if anything catches my eye. This one's cool, ravine. I like the little glyphs on that. All right, I'm going to save like maybe 3 more. I don't want to do too many because that's where I'm going to overcomplicate things and I'm going to find it really hard to narrow it down. So I'm just going to pick up, like I did on Pinterest, the ones that instantly catch my attention, and then we'll work with those. We've always got the option of coming back, and obviously I've saved them all in the collection so I can see which ones and which sort of theme I like overall. So coming over to my collections, I've, as you've seen, saved a lot. And I'm going to pick out a bunch of different ones. So really like this one. I'm going to download that. And again, I'm going to add this file to a project. So this is going to go under NQC. So it sort of categorizes everything and makes sure it's headed to the right place. So reveal or revel, then Athena, really like that. This one's quite cool. Zenzero grotesque. Maybe this one. I'm going to download 5. I like to have a selection to choose from. And 5. Once you've downloaded the fonts, you just need to head into your downloads folder, unpack the files, double click them, install them, etc. And then we will head over into Adobe Illustrator and get comparing them and see which ones we can work with and make into a magical logo. So moving back into Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to move my little sketches to the side and we're going to compare these fonts. So I'm just going to use the letters NQC to begin with, but I do actually want to find a font where I can write the entire name of the coffee shop. So first of all, NQC, I'm going to put it all in capitals because as you can see from my drawings, they're all capital letters, but obviously we can change that. And what I'm going to do is just copy it down 5 times. And with this, I'm going to search the fonts that I've downloaded. So first up, we have Athena. Let's just get rid. And then I'm going to search the fonts that we've downloaded. So first up, I have Athena. Top tip, write down the fonts that you've downloaded because you will forget what they're called. Then we have, wait, is there different ones? No. We have extraordinary. It's like extraordinary, but not. Extraordinary. Quite cool. Then next up we have carry mum. So we have italic or regular. I'm going to go for regular. Obviously we can change that. Then we have revel. Ooh, I think that's my favorite so far. And then we have Zenzero. Zenzero. So then we have sans or sans rounded. So you can see the ends of the letters are either round or flat. Let's go with flat for now. So once I have these fonts, I like to compare them straight away. Because obviously when I see them on Envato elements, you can't really get a feel for what they look like. So I recommend downloading a bunch of them, comparing them against each other and then figuring it out. So straight up, I don't like this one. I feel like it's a little bit too retro, not the vibes that I feel like that coffee shop is aiming for. So I'm going to get rid of that. Then also this one, it's a bit too blocky, especially for the idea that I have with these like lines and adding the circle. I don't love that. This one I really like. I feel like I can try and make something cool with this one. Same with this. Again, really like the little glyph here. I think maybe I could combine the two. Could pinch that glyph and put it on this one. I'm not sure. And then here we have, it's a little bit different. I don't hate it, but I'm not in love, but I'm going to put this down here just in case I change my mind. So that's the first stage done. We've gathered inspiration, we've taken a look at what we like, what we don't, we've curated it all into one thing, and we've sketched things out. In my case, I've sketched them very badly, but it doesn't matter how neat or how messy you do it because we are going to develop those. I've downloaded the fonts, I've found a couple that I like the most, and next we're going to get on to developing them. We're now going to have a go at making some first drafts. So this is the stage where we can experiment with layouts, we can tweak things, we can change the tracking and the leading on the font, we can just have a bit of a play. Again, don't hold back, just give it a go. You can always press undo, you can always completely delete it and start again. There's so much freedom with this, and I feel like that's the joy of graphic design. You can always change things or go back to where you started. So I did briefly mention moving this little accent on this Q over to here because I do like this font. I'm just not sure on these serifs, and I think it's a little bit too condensed to the side. Of course I could change these, so you could go up to character, and using this you could change the gap between it or the spacing. If I move this down here, you'll see what I mean. So if I do this, you can see it sort of expands it, but I don't want to tweak the way the font has been made too much, and I feel like by doing that it's doing exactly that. So what I'm going to do is combine the two. So I'm going to make them bigger so you can see them slightly better, and what I'm going to do is right click and create outlines. This turns the font, it's now not editable, but I can tweak it, it's now a vector. You'll see that there's now blue outlines around it, whereas this one, it's still editable. So it's got the line here, and if I press T for the text tool, I can still like delete and change things. So I'm going to make both of these fonts into outlines. So right click, create outlines. Now first up, I'm going to ungroup this. So click again, ungroup, and all I want is the Q. So I have the option of completely replacing it. So I could just slide out that Q, but I actually just want to add this, like get rid of this glyph and add this one. So to do that, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to press the minus button and just get rid of these anchor points. So that's got rid of that. And then with this Q, I'm going to press Shift and E. I'm going to expand the size of my brush with the squared close bracket, and I'm just going to get rid of everything else that I don't want, basically. So I'm going to rub this out like this. And then I can combine the two. Get rid of that a little bit more. And have a play around with placement of this bit. Now I'm not going to merge these together because I feel like I'm probably going to end up changing them. But if you do merge it, or if you do make something that isn't as easy to reverse, I definitely recommend highlighting it, copying it. So holding, for me, it's the Option key on my Mac, and I'm going to drag it up. That means that I've still got that like hidden away off my artboard if I need it. Same with these. I'm not going to delete them just in case, but I'm going to move them out of the way. It means that I'm not going to like accidentally do something that I shouldn't. I've always got a way of going back. So let's combine these two elements. I'm going to click the little thing at the bottom. I'm going to click the Q, and we're going to go down to here, Pathfinder, and we're going to click this one, which has combined them. So now they're all together, and if I zoom in, you can see there's like no extra bits. You can't see where I've sort of like added it on and joined it in. Right, so that's a really nice font, but I want it to look different. I want it to look better than that. So I'm going to attempt to do something like this with these circles. So first up, I'm going to ungroup them. and we're just gonna have a play around. This is literally all you can do. You can just play around with the letters, figure it out. Again, definitely recommend copying them up and out so you've got them. But yeah, I'm gonna have a play around with this. I'll time lapse it so you don't have to hear me rambling, but you'll see sort of the progress that I make, and hopefully it comes to something good. So as you saw from that time lapse, I experimented with a whole bunch of different ideas. I started with one font, I tried to tweak it, and I ended up right back at a font that I thought I was going to use right at the beginning. So like I said, definitely copy out the fonts and elements and stuff that you create so that you can bring them back if you change your mind. So as you can see on my screen, I have a sort of icon logo idea. Now, I could sit and dwell on this for a while, but what I've always been told, and I always recommend to the people that I teach, is sleep on it. Have a bit of a break. Now, I've been staring at this for far too long, and you know when you say a word that many times, it sort of loses its meaning? That's happened. So sleep on it, have a rest, let your eyes rest, ask your friends, ask your peers, just sort of reevaluate the design that you've done. Think about the pros and cons, think about how it would work on digital platforms, so as a social media logo, on your website, anything like that. And then also think about it in print, so as logos on uniforms, or maybe in this case printed onto coffee cups and food packaging. So have a think of all those things, give yourself a little bit of time off, whether that's just a lunch break, go for a walk, or literally sleeping on it and coming back to it the next day. We're going to have a break and we're going to reevaluate in a second. I've given myself some time to step back and evaluate. I've been for a walk, I've had my lunch, and whilst I've not been obsessing over this logo, I've actually had some great ideas. So that is the perk of stepping away for a little bit. As much as you feel like it's going to be counterproductive, it's actually really helpful to take a step back. It was what my university tutor used to always tell me. Don't stress over it, take a step back, and usually when you come back, you'll have like an amazing idea. So fingers crossed this is an amazing idea. What I'm going to do is actually head back over to Envato Elements, and I'm going to download some textures. They've got, I mean, you can see stock video, video templates, music, sound effects, graphic templates, which we'll be using later on to make some mock-ups. They've also got graphics, presentation templates, photos, fonts, and add-ons, and even more. Whilst I was eating my lunch, I was thinking maybe it'd be fun to add some sort of texture to the logo. I'd probably present it to the client in both formats, so when it's clean with no texture and with the texture, but I love that I can do that. Basically, the ease of using Adobe Illustrator means I can make multiple versions and I can save different versions to send to the client. So I am going to search for vector textures. Now, when you search through all items, it will categorize everything. It sort of guesses which category you're aiming for. So it'll be in the graphics category, but if I scroll down, you'll see that they've got like stock video, photos with textures, etc. So it's really like obviously laid out. It's helpful, especially when you're in a rush. I'm going to go to see more, and again, there's different categories and things that I can use on the filters. But I want to make sure it's vector because I want to make sure it's compatible with Illustrator and like scalable. And I mean, 59 vector textures, that's literally the first one I've seen, but I mean, there's 59 to choose from, but so I'd be very surprised if there isn't one in there that I like. So just added that to the collection so I have it if I lose it for any reason, and I'm going to download this. I've downloaded the textures, I've unzipped the file, and in here are 3 different versions. So we've got PNG, EPS, and AI. AI is the one that we want, and I mean, there are a lot of textures in here. So I'm going to have a quick look through. Like I said, everything that I use in this video will be in the collection. I'll leave it linked below the video for you guys so you can have a look and like try these out for yourself. But I'm going to just press the space bar on my Mac and I can like scroll through these and figure out if there's any that I want to give a go. I don't want anything too fussy. I do want it to still look modern, but just having a bit of something on there I feel like could work really well. That one's quite interesting, number 12. Even something as simple as that could work really well. I'm going to write these down so I remember. And once I've gone through them, I'm going to just open all of the ones that I've made note of, and we're going to try them above or over the top of the logo that I've created in Illustrator. Turns out I actually found 7. So this one, number 12, I do really like. Looking at it now, it's a little bit too busy for me. This one's quite nice, very simple. Number 49, I quite like that still. 46, again, standard. 44, too busy for me now, I've changed my mind. It's normal to go back and forth between ideas. It's normal to start with something and think you're not going to like it, go full circle and then go back to the beginning. Perfect example was when I was playing around with the letters and I thought I liked a particular font. You saw me playing around with it, and it turns out I actually went back to the font that I had a little bit of an inkling was quite cool, so I left it in the bottom left hand corner, and then I ended up using that in the end. So it's completely fine to go back and forth between ideas and switch things up as long as the idea at the end is something that you're really happy with. And like I said, sleeping on it and coming at it with a fresh pair of eyes is really helpful, and it helps to clarify things when you're slightly unsure. And of course, asking friends and family and peers too. Okay, so I'm going to narrow these down. So I've got just a few. So I've got number 49, 46 and 16. 16 is the most basic, but I want to have the option. So I'm going to go first up with 49. I'm going to highlight it all and press copy. And we're going to have a play around with this. So there's two versions of this logo, and this is where it's important to experiment and perfect and enhance the logo. So in this part, I'm going to play around with the colours, I'm going to play around with the texture and how to present it and how I can adapt this logo and make it work in different scenarios. So I did add this little star because it's Northern Quarter Coffee and I thought North Star. So that's an option, and we could also incorporate that within some patterns that we might make and other like elements for the brand. And also I have chopped a little bit of this little flick off. I sort of masked it out with the square to get an idea of what I like before I committed. So I'm going to use the Pathfinder, select both of them, go down here, Pathfinder, and I'm going to chop it out, which is this button here, and that just gets rid of that. So we're going to highlight all of this and we're going to make it a compound path. So if I go up to Object, Compound Path, Make, and there's also a shortcut, I've made that a compound path. So now I can sort of use that texture. Now, there's a few ways to do this, but this is the way I prefer, so it stays pretty editable. I am going to paste in the texture that I found. At the minute it's in black, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up and put it in white, and then this way I can see the sort of effect it has on the text without setting anything in stone. So if I zoom in and click off of it, you can sort of see the effect it has on the letters. I actually quite like that. I feel like it's not too busy, but it sort of works. Again, because I've not set anything in stone, I can scale it up or down. So if I scale it down, there'll be smaller dots, but they're still movable. And I actually really like that. So I'm going to keep this on here. I'm just going to nudge it to the right hand side. And I just want to compare it just for a little bit of peace of mind to make sure that I'm making the right decision. I'm comparing it. So I'm going to paste in this texture, which is a little bit different. It's a bit more spread out. Again, I'm going to put it in white. And I'm going to drag this around. Now, my instincts say this is going to be too scattered. It's not going to look quite as intentional as I want it to look. And I think that's right. You can see that there's little texture on there, but I don't think it's enough to really make a statement. Again, personal preference, but I'm going to get rid of that one. I don't think I want to use that one. And then finally, number 46 is the one that's sort of in between. I'm going to paste this in. And I think for this one, in fact, I'm going to rotate it because it looks quite texture heavy on the right hand side. So I'm going to rotate it and then place it sort of there. Let's put it in white, see how this affects it. And again, I feel like it's a little bit too clustered. So this is, I don't think this one's for me. I think I'm going to end up going back to the very first one, which is what's great about having such a big bundle of textures in one. It means I could try them all before I committed because I don't know why. So I can try them all before I'm committed. Okay, so we have that texture. I actually really like that. And like I said, can scale it up and scale it down. What I'm going to do is cut it out so I won't have this like extra texture hanging around. So to do this, I'm going to do a clipping mask, and it's basically like a cookie cutter. So it'll chop out the bit of the texture that I want effectively. That's the easiest way to explain it anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this logo, I'm going to copy it. So you can go edit, copy, and then I'm going to paste in front, which means there's now an identical version right on top of that other one. So now I drag the texture back in to sort of like where I want it. I quite like this. It looks like it's been printed onto paper, which I think is quite a cool vibe. And I'm going to send this to the back behind the texture. So now it goes the original logo, the texture's in the middle, and then the logo that I've just copied and pasted is on top. So it's like a sandwich. It's a logo sandwich. And I'm going to click this, I'm going to click the texture, and I'm going to go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make, and of course there is a shortcut. So now if I drag this into the outside of the artboard, you'll see that it's chopped it out. That is exactly the shape of the logo chopped out. You can see how it's in, and if I want to change the placement of anything, all you do is double click and it'll let you go into that compound path and move the texture. So if you want to adjust it, make it bigger, make it smaller, anything like that, it will let you do that. You know what? I actually am going to add in some text below it. So for brands like Starbucks or Costa, you can kind of recognize their logo just from the logo mark, which is this, just the letters. However, because this is a new brand, I do want to incorporate the full title of the business. So I'm gonna write in there Northern Quarter Coffee, and we're going to include this in the logo too, but of course we can use them either or, with or without each other. And I'm thinking, continuing like the stacking vibes, maybe we could stack these letters. So either, let's just add these down. So here I've pressed the enter button and they're all overlapping. So this is to do with the paragraph settings. So if I go into here and press up, it will spread them back out a little bit. And I mean, I could leave it aligned to one side. Maybe, in fact, I could use this star and move the star down here and like balance it out a little bit. Let's see what this looks like. So in fact, I'm gonna undo this clipping mask. I'm going to release the clipping mask, move the texture out of the way, and what I'm going to do is release the compound path on this and move the star. And I'm thinking maybe putting it down here. Let's just play around with this for a second. I've been playing around with the font, as you can see, and I think I'm actually going to head back over to Envato and find something a little bit more condensed, but not the exact same font as the one I've just used. So I'm going to search in fonts, and I'm going to search condensed. And I want something sort of similar to the font that I've used for the icon, but not exactly that, just because I don't think it will work written out, whereas it works really well as the icon. I really like this one, Unicer. Let's add this one. Let's download it. Let's see how it works. No messing around. So let's have a look. Unicer. We've got italic, we've got bold. I'm going to go with bold. And with this, I actually don't think it needs that fit to headline effect. So I'm going to apply it to this. Still not loving it, you know, there's something not quite right. Okay, let's go back to the drawing board. So I really like it with the little star in the corner like this. So let's get rid of this. I'm gonna copy this over here and I'm gonna do it without the square. See how I think about that. And then I'm gonna just write down here, northern quarter coffee, and I'm going to have a look at fonts. So one that I really like from Envato is Foncesca, like Francesca but not, and I think it just looks really sleek and lovely. It's quite blocky, but there are different options to it. There's so many different options. Now my favorite is either light or thin. Very, very slight differences, but it makes a difference. So I like this. I feel like this pairs really, really nicely with the NQC icon. I just need to work out how I want them to work together. Okay, so we've got a rough idea of what we like. I'm gonna just play around with some different layouts. So we need to think about how it would look in a shop window. We also want to think about it on uniforms, on social media, website, etc. So straight up, you know, like those square signs that sort of stick out from shops, the little icons, I really think this NQC should be for that. Also, that could be the logo for shirts or uniforms, etc. Then I actually really like Northern Quarter Coffee, sort of lined up like this. So thinking shop signage, something that goes above the door, something like that. So if we line these up to each other like that, that could look quite cool by itself. Again, you could also add the icon above this or next to this. There's also adding the box around it. So if we copy over the icon and add the little box, maybe that's something that could be stamped onto the coffee cups. Just a fun way of incorporating the logo. So let's centralize these. And then again, you could combine them all. So have the square like this, Northern Quarter Coffee, or stack them again. Like that. It's quite a fun way of doing it. There's a lot of different combinations. So what I'm going to do is actually keep those combinations, and we are going to present them and have a play around with the colours. Top tips, there are a few really good websites to find colour combinations. Now, the first website that I love to use is actually Adobe Colour, and this is a free tool to use, and I find it so helpful. I use it a lot. So on here you can play around with the color wheel and create your own palettes. Basically, there's a load of settings down the side depending on which color harmony rule you want, and you can save the palettes. So you can save it straight to Illustrator, or you can save it out as like a JPEG or anything like that, so you can pick it up wherever you want. You can also do this thing where you like extract a theme. So if you have a particular image that you like the color tones of, you can import that into here. In fact, let me show you this. So I've dragged a photo straight into here from Pinterest, and you can see it's picked up a bunch of color tones. All I did, searched coffee shop in Pinterest, and I liked the vibes of this. So imagine that this client has sent me a photo of their coffee shop, and I wanted to incorporate some of the colors. Say they have those green tiles, you can pick those up using a tool like this, and I find it so fun to use. Definitely recommend trying this. There's also a website called colors.co, and this, again, pretty similar idea to Adobe. You can generate color palettes and you can explore, you can search different palettes. So I'm thinking earthy tones for a coffee shop. If you search earth tones, it's going to come up with a bunch of different colors that fit that vibe. Adobe Color also has that option. You can explore up here and you can literally search earth tones or fun vibrant, and it will come up with colors that suit that description. And there's also trends and other people's color palettes that they've saved that you can also download. I'm going to use Adobe Color purely because it syncs straight to my account, which means I can use them straight away. So I've just searched coffee, and I actually quite like this one because it's got like the nice terracotta vibes in it. So I've just added that straight to my library. Super, super handy. This is quite cool with the blues. Add that to the library. And I'm thinking to go along with that green vibe of the tiles in that image that I downloaded, maybe we'll find one with a bit of green in there. Maybe like this. This is quite cool. So again, I've downloaded, I think, 4 options so I can play around with colour. All about experimenting. So we've got 3 variations of the logo. We've got the NQC and the star. We've got the NQC with the box and the star, and then all of the things. This is the font that would go above the door. So it's important to think of the logo in different situations, and then we've still got that texture to use as we start piecing things together. So for colours, I have downloaded a bunch of palettes into my Adobe library. Like I said, you can use the colors.co website or Adobe Color, and in here we have the palettes that I saved. So there's this one which I extracted from that image, and then these 3 at the top which I found later on. So let's have a play around. This terracotta colour is really calling my name. I really like this. So I think I'm going to go with this vibes. So let's try the whole thing in the orange, in the terracotta. I quite like that. Or the whole thing in this colour. You know what? I think I prefer it in the dark colour. Even though the terracotta looks really nice in this palette, I think I do prefer this dark one, which incorporates that green, which again can be in the shop as tiles or anything like that, any features. So let's arrange these into some sort of colorway. So I want to have these icons down here in all of the colorways. So I'm going to duplicate these across. Now it's really important to present your designs in a way that looks appealing to your client. So what I'm doing now is I'm arranging them so they look pleasing. I'm not just sending them a file of the logo on a plain background. I'm making it look visually satisfying, because as a graphic designer, you can see what the vision is, you understand it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the person, your client, is also going to understand it. So it's important to sort of figure out how best to present your work. Now, I've put all those colours down on paper and I actually don't love them all together. I think we need to combine some of these ideas. So I love this bold orange and I love this sort of peach shade. Not too keen on the brown. I'm going to go for this dark blue shade, which I think looks really nice. I'm going to just switch that up. This colour, quite nice. I do like that. And then the green. So I've got 5 colours and then obviously black and white. Then I'm going to include this icon. And of course this one. So this is sort of like the overall image. This is what can be stamped onto coffee cups. So I'm going to copy this over a few times again. Make sure they're all lined up, looking neat. Let's move you out of the way. Just going to lower the size of these. You can make whatever size artboard you want. Completely up to you. In fact, I'm going to extend my artboard. I want it to be perfectly square. So let's go like this. So when I send this to my client, I can send them a square image of everything laid out how I envisage it. So we've got 3 icons here. Just going to align them. And again, I'm going to play around with the colours. So I'm going to pick up some of these colours that we used at the bottom. So I really like the dark one. It's not quite black. It's like a very, very dark navy, which I think is quite nice. Then that orange that I used initially. And also I do really, really like this green. I feel like the earth tones sort of speaks to the vibes of the brand. Then I also want to demonstrate the logo on darker colours, so I think it's important to sort of show it in its white form and in different ways, basically. So I'm going to copy this one over. We're going to do 4 of these. Let's equally space them. So we want a white, we want this peach shade, and in fact I'm going to switch it over, so I'm going to use the light background too. So then again, a white and a dark shade, like so. So you can sort of see how these logos are likely to work depending on the colour of the background. In fact, I'm going to put that in this colour. So we've got something like that. Now, a sneaky tip, if you have second thoughts about your colour palettes, there is a way of changing them quickly. So I'm going to show you. So let's just take this one, for example, with the greens and the browns. I'm going to right click this and I'm going to add theme to swatches. And I'm going to do this for the other themes as well that I got. And maybe this one. Now I'm going to highlight the entire artboard and I'm going to move this along so you can see, and I'm going to go to object, and I'm going to go to edit, edit colors, recolor artwork. And then in here we have a lot of tools. If you click advanced options, these are the colors that are in your artwork. And if you want to switch them around, I'm going to click this button here, randomly change color order, and it's going to switch the layout of the colors. Now, of course, one of the colors is white, so you'll see that they kind of disappear, but this is a really fun way of figuring out different color combinations. And we can reset it so it goes back to normal, and you can also play around with new palettes. So if I click this here, which is one of the themes that I added to my swatches, it changes it. Same with this one, and same as before, you can change this and it changes the color combinations. This is such a fun way of playing around with color without having to fully commit. You can drag them in and out, you can change the ones you want, you can completely change your mind. It's up to you, and this is a really fun way of doing it. And you know what, I actually think this peach color in the background, we could get away with doing this darker. I quite like the green, so the blue and the green, I think that looks really nice. So I have created the logo. We've perfected it, we've tweaked it a lot, you've seen the process, you've seen how I change my ideas, how I go back and forth, how I completely turn them on their heads and start again. And now we are going to work on how to present these to our clients. So there are two ways I like to do this. First of all, there are mockups on Envato elements, and then there are also options on a Envato site called Place It, which I'm also going to show you. So first up, I'm going to show you the mockups on Envato elements. These all use Photoshop, so I am going to open Photoshop and show you that. So going over to, so in graphic templates on Envato, we are going to search for shop front. And as you can see, we have some different shop fronts that have arrived on screen. So I'm going to save some of these into collections and also download them. So I really like this one. It's actual shop fronts, and then I actually do want to get one of these stick out signs. These are really cool. So I'm going to also save this and download it as well. Now I'm also thinking like aprons, so let's search apron, and there should be apron mockups on here. There's loads to choose from. Let's go with this one. So I'm adding that to my collection. And then also, of course, a coffee cup. Let's go with this one. And I keep not doing this, but you can click into each one and have a read of what comes with it. So you can see the different variations of whatever it is that you're downloading, whether it's a font or whether it's a texture or some artwork, whatever you want. And there's like a description, it shows you what the file types are, etc, etc. But for ease of use, I like downloading them straight from the results page. So whilst they download, I'm going to head back into Illustrator and I'm going to export out these images. So you can either collect assets for export, so highlight, collect for export as assets, or you can export the entire artboard. What I'm going to do is just highlight and export like this. So I'm going to go across and do this. Okay, so we've collected all those for export. We've got 11 different assets. I'm going to save them as PNGs. That means the backgrounds will be clear. And when I package them up and send them to my client, I would save them as PDFs and SVGs. So if you want to add something else, you press add here, change the scale if the scale is affected, and you can click. So SVG would mean it saves as a vector. So if they have Adobe Illustrator, they can also edit it. But for now, we're going to use it as a PNG. So I'm going to click export, find a place to export it, and then we'll open up those mockups in Photoshop. So we're in Photoshop and I'm going to show you first of all the coffee cup. I feel like that's the most relevant. So when you open mockups, generally they all work pretty similar. Of course, they're all made by different creatives, so they will be slightly different, but the general gist will be there. So I'll quickly talk you through this. So in layers, you'll see usually a few different folders. So we've got FX, we've got one that says double click here, edit color and object. So I'm going to double click here because that's what it told me to do. And this is where the design goes. So I'm going to open the file with all the elements in and I'm going to play around with some placements and sort of figure out what it is that I want to do. So straight up, I'm just going to use the dark blue colored logo to begin with. And we're going to see how we can place this on the cup to make it look pretty cool. We'll see. I'm also gonna create a new layer, new fill layer, solid color, and we're just gonna put it in white to begin with. So we've got Northern Quarter Coffee. I'm actually gonna add another one in here. You could make a pattern out of this. You could do whatever you wanted, but just for the sakes of me quickly showing you, I'm going to do it this way. And then you can have a play around when you give it a go for yourself. So there's a quick idea. I've added the 3 different versions of the logo. Of course, you can make patterns, you can add completely different elements, you could even download patterns from Envato and insert them into the cup. Like I said, completely up to you. I'm going to press save on this and then head back over to this, and then you can see that it has the logos on there. I actually think I'd prefer this to be wrapped around the bottom or not on there at all. So I'm gonna just tweak this. I'm gonna just make this slightly bigger. And get rid of that. And actually, I think it would look quite cool sort of wrapped around the cup, so it won't be an issue if it kind of goes off around the sides. So that is my coffee cup. You can change the lid, which is quite fun. So let's see if it lets us paste that colour in. It does. So we can have a dark lid. I actually think it'd be quite nice to have like the orange shade. So again, if I go into libraries, if I pick up one of these colours, so now we've got like that terracotta shade, add that for the lid. Quite cool, right? So you can sort of adjust things, change them around and really have a play with it. Another example is adding the logo to a shop front. So for this shop front, I actually need to save out the just name of the shop in a long continuous line. So I'm going to quickly head back into Illustrator and just gather that to export. So we're going to do this. We're going to use that same font like this, and I'm just going to export this out. So then when we head back into the mock-up, we can add that in a second. So there are a lot of different logo options in here, you can see from the windows. So I'm just going to click them and then we'll figure out which one's which. So facade 1, this is the long one. So I'm going to go into the file, drag out that logo there, resize it to fit the space. Get rid of the other one, and I actually want to make it white, so I'm just going to double click the layer in the layers panel, color overlay, and make it white. And There you go, there's one, and then I'm going to repeat that process with all the other sections. So there we have a really quick example of how you can add the logo to shop fronts. I've also got a mock-up for a little sign which I will show you. So with this shop sign, really simple, double click on the artwork, get rid of, paste in your artwork, resize it, get rid of the existing artwork, press save, and then there you have it. And with this you can change the highlight. It's got a bit of an effect on it, so you can play around with any overlays or anything that's been added. So those are some easy mock-ups to use on Photoshop. I'll very quickly show you the Place It site. Now Place It simplifies that whole process, so if you're not familiar with Photoshop, Place It makes that a lot easier. So I'm going to go over to mockups and I'm going to search for coffee. So in here are a bunch of mockups of coffee related items. There's a girl with coffee, there's a coffee cup. You can see we've got a lot of different things. So let's find one that could work well. So I'm going to use this one, and it's basically the same principle but a lot easier. So we've got 3 images that we need to insert. So insert image, upload from your device. I'm going to select the logo that I want, so I'm going to go with the dark blue one with all the text on it. I'm going to make sure it's cropped correctly. We can change this if we want to. And then that will appear on the cup. Same with these bits. So let's say we're just going to use the same logo. Insert those images, change the crop. And there you go, they're on it. Literally as easy as that. All done. And then you just change the background color if you want to. You can change the color of the bag. So let's say like a nice warm orange color, or if I'd uploaded a white logo, I could use a dark bag and a white logo. Lots of options. Then you can save it as a draft, you can favorite it, or you can download it. Amazing. And this method applies to lots of different things. They have aprons on Place It, they have shop fronts, they've got a bunch of different things. So like I said, if you're not quite familiar with Photoshop and you'd feel a little bit more confident doing something like that, I highly recommend trying Place It. Super viable tool to use. So that is it for this video. I have shown you how to design a coffee logo in Adobe Illustrator. We've gone right from the brief through to gathering ideas, working out what it is we want to do. Then we've downloaded some elements from Envato Elements. We've played around with fonts, we've added textures, we've selected a color palette, and finally we've presented it all into various different mockups that you can send to your client so they can really visualize the logo in action. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said, all of the assets and everything that I've been talking about will be linked in the collection that I created down below. And don't forget to check out Envato Elements for unlimited downloads of design assets, templates, fonts, and millions of different creative assets with simple commercial licensing. You can cancel anytime, so subscribe now with the link in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!